All right, Salt Lake City was the location of heads getting blown off. Basically, a few heads got blown off. It seems like it's a tradition now in Utah. Whenever they have major events, it seems like the UFC they love Utah, right? Salt Lake City they love fighting. I know there's like a large population of Mormons out there. That's what Utah is known for. But there's also a large population of Samoans, and what are they known for? Um, Mike, my mic is crazy right now.
Yeah, I don't know if the chat, if anybody's in the chat, let me know or let us know if it sounds different. Because like right
It
now
does.
when you're talking, it just sounds like a crazy like buzz sound, like staticky,
All right, all
like
right.
even worse
Let
than
me
before.
let's do a switch up. Let's see what we can do right now live. But anyways, yeah, Salt Lake City. It was crazy. Hopefully we can fix this. How about that? Does that sound a little bit better?
Yeah, it's gone. That noise is
Okay.
gone.
All right. I will
Yeah.
just shut this mic off. We'll just use this mic on the headphones. I think
No,
that'll be
that's
easier too.
a million times better. I
All
think
right.
about to
So
blow my eardrum up. I was like,
yeah,
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 please.
yeah. We got fucking boombox
Yeah, for
blaster
real.
on.
I'm gonna hit all the bass. Oh, you're muted. Oh,
Good.
there you go. There you go.
Now we're back. All right, Salt Lake City. Like I said, a great event that they had out there. The UFC seems like they love Salt Lake City, man. Salt Lake City is is a location where they always bring some sick cards. You know what I mean? The last one we remember was the Leon Edwards versus Kabar Usman, where he won the title with the head kick knockout. And we had a few head kick knockouts in this event. Some crazy. There's always crazy stuff, right, at every event because this sport is so volatile, and we always got something to complain about, right? Every fight, there's something to complain about, right? There was some complaints about eye gouging and grabbing the fence, which eye gouging is not something that you hear too often, but grabbing the fence is something you hear about pretty much
All the
every
time.
right all events. So we'll get into all of that. Let's jump into first with the main event, right? The headliner, the BMF title. Before we get into that, make sure you guys go in the descriptions and download the AllStar app for all your sports needs. You know what I mean? NBA, NFL, PFL, UFC, whatever you want, whatever you like, whatever you want to follow, you can fully customize the app to your needs. And also, if you love fighting and you love to make picks, the picks option is there for you. And that's what most of us are here for, is to go on the app, make picks, join the community, join JSpec's league, which JSpec is not here right now. He'll be here maybe later. We don't know for sure. He's a mysterious guy nowadays, but might pop up. Who knows? But yeah, if you join his league, you know what I mean, you could win crazy memorabilia. You know what I mean? Last month he gave away the signed VJ pen, which hey, if you're good at picking, why not win free prizes? You know what I mean? Especially stuff that you could hang on the wall, you know, and that's not just something that you just get in a gift bag and toss it in the extra bedroom or whatnot. But anyways, headliner Justin Gaethje goes in there. I guarantee you, and I think us too, we all picked Poirier to win the fight because in history it likes to repeat itself, right? And Chael Sonnen, I think Chael Sonnen was one of the ones that really all week has been saying like same rules, same venue, same
Yeah,
this, same that, and he's just like same
iteration.
result. And he kind of, you know, what is it, hypnotize us with that a little bit. If you were watching Chael in his pre-fight commentary, but yeah, but even before that, I think a lot of people favored Dustin Poirier to win this fight just because of where they're at in their career, and technically, people thought Dustin Poirier was just a better fighter. But in fighting, you don't have to be. You could be technically the best in the world, right? And you'll still go in there, especially a guy that is one of the best in the world as well, but maybe not as good as you. Maybe people consider, but this is fighting. It takes one mistake, and maybe Poirier was too relaxed and got caught with that head kick, right? Knocked
Yeah.
out. It was. it happened so fast, right? We weren't ready for it. Were you ready for it? Like I felt like I was just watching the fight and all of a sudden it was over.
Yeah, you know what's crazy is so many like reaction videos and stuff that I saw, people missed it. Like so many people missed the initial head kick where they had to go back and see it on the replay. But they're like, "What happened? He went out. How did he get knocked out?" I don't think anybody saw that coming. I'm guilty as you are, as many people are, of picking Dustin Poirier in this fight. I really just thought Dustin was too slick. I thought he would have an answer for the leg kicks that he suffered. That was really the one thing that was damaging him in the first fight. I thought he would have a correction for it. He would have an answer for it. And he looked good. Dustin looked sharp. He had Gaethje hurt in the first round. He hit him with a big shot that had him kind of Bambi legged out there. And listen, if you told me Justin Gaethje by head kick, I'd be like, no way, man. No way. It's something else. I can't remember the last time Gaethje landed. I think like the Tony Ferguson, he landed a good head kick in there, but didn't really do too much damage. I just didn't know Gaethje had that in his bag. I mean, showing the right hand, throwing the right high above it, like I didn't know he had that. So kudos to him, man. Credit to Gaethje. Hey, if you're gonna come out and win a fight that you lost, you have to do it in a way that the other guy's not expecting. You got to hit him with something that he's not ready for because he game planned for everything else, right? He game planned for the left hook. He game planned for the overhand right from Gaethje. Don't circle off to his right. He's gonna hit you with a big right hand. He game planned for that, but I guarantee you he did not think, man, Gaethje throws his right high kick. You better be prepared for it. And that's what caught him.
Yeah, it caught him clean. Like you said, it wasn't expected. I think the expectations of this fight it's going to be a long drawn out war, right? Both guys are going to get hit with crazy shots. Not one shot is going to put either one down, and that's what happened. One shot put the other down, and that's why people were delayed with their reactions, right? Like you, like me, I was delayed. I was expecting, Gaethje to get, head kick him, even if it happened head kick him. Poirier maybe get knocked down, but he scrambles back up and gets position and he does his little shorts thing and he pulls forward. You know what I mean? And
Fixes
and
the
and
hair.
boxes exactly right. Like that's what we expected. It's almost like a movie that we were expecting.
Yeah.
Like this movie that we're like watching. Like we're expecting, this to happen, but it didn't happen. That's why it's great. That's why fighting is so good. That's why fighting is something that you can watch and you need to watch live. Right? This is a perfect example of why you need to watch fights live, right?
For sure. For sure. 100%. And like you said, man, it's just MMA. MMA is so versatile. There's so many different ways for you to lose in MMA. Like that's why it's almost impossible, right? You have John Jones, you have Khabib, you have guys that go undefeated, but we understand like the impossibility of going undefeated in the UFC. Like it's just so unpredictable. Anything could happen. You could throw a leg kick and get it checked and get your leg snapped in half. Like you have no idea what's gonna happen in there. And yeah, man, congrats to the new BMF. I don't know how. I don't know how it all works, but he's it. He's the BMF of the UFC apparently.
He is. He is the BMF of the UFC. The whole fight, Gaethje was doing really well, right? The first round was even on the feet. There was nobody really. I think Gaethje looked better. He looked a lot slicker on the feet. Maybe Poirier landed with a little bit more impact in the first round, but it could have went either way the first round, right? Could have went either way because Gaethje did look slick and he did look like he had a vision of like what he wanted to do in the fight. Poirier is more in there fighting off instinct, like he always does and sometimes that could get you in trouble early, but then he turns it around. This time around, he wasn't even out the gate yet. Gaethje was controlling the cage, landing, hitting sick combinations, showing different. I think he was showing him so many different things that eventually in the second round, Gaethje or Poirier kind of had to start all over again, watching like his movement, and it was just too late. The head kick, boom, it's over with, right? So
Headshot dead.
Gaethje, yeah. So this kind of result and this kind of performance now puts like changes your perspective of Gaethje tremendously, right? Like now it seems like is he a different Gaethje? Like is he like a smarter Gaethje, right? Like that's the only thing that that was kind of like I guess dragging on him, like that dark cloud around him. It's like
Yeah, yeah.
he's so unpredictable that he never would become like an undisputed champion with a couple title defenses just because his style. But now he's still violent, but his style is somewhat has altered, right? A little, I guess, a little bit more technical and maybe a little bit more planned out. And that could be a problem for like even for a Charles. It could be a problem for Islam. We've seen Islam taken to the deep ends of the ocean by Volkanovski, right? Who's to say that he can't do the same, Justin Gaethje, to Islam, right? If Islam is thinking that he could strike with Gaethje, right? And Gaethje's wrestling is good. It's just he hasn't been tested, right? That's the only thing. Is like, is Gaethje's wrestling good enough to beat Islam, right? But we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out, right?
It's
Because
got to
that's
be
what Gaethje
next.
wants. That's got to be next, right?
Yeah.
And I have a funny feeling that that title fight that's booked for what is it, October? Or is it October or December?
I
October,
believe
right?
October. Yeah.
Okay, October between Islam. I wouldn't be surprised if someone pulls out of that fight. I would not be surprised. You know why? Because Charles already said that he wasn't going to be ready by that time.
Yeah.
And you know how UFC loves to book fights too early
Yeah.
without even like signatures
Yeah.
on contracts. And yeah, so Gaethje better stay ready, man. He's carrying a great amount of momentum, and I think he talked about the Fiziev fight, how that fight actually changed his viewpoint on fighting and his performance. I think we saw the best version of Gaethje, right? And maybe we're seeing the prime version of Gaethje right now. What do you think? Do you think it's past the prime, or do you think like he looks better than he did 3 years ago?
It's just hard to say because of the matchups. You know, when it comes to Gaethje, I've never seen him as somebody who, hey, on the feet, he's just going to struggle against anybody. He doesn't have the ability standing. He can land big shots. We've seen him hurt. I mean, when's the last time we've seen Gaethje fight and not hurt his opponent? We know he can land. We know he has really clever ways to land big shots. He's not afraid to take one to give one. The problem with Gaethje is the next level. That next step is still the grappling. Have we seen him get better in the grappling department? We know he was a wrestler. We know defensive takedowns. He's a little, he's good there. We've heard that he's good. Again, we haven't seen it. We can't really base it on the Khabib fight. Khabib, I mean, if you can stuff Khabib's takedowns, then you would be the champion. You would still be the reigning champion at this point. So we can't really look at Khabib and say, okay, let's determine that. But man, to think that he's going to be able to keep Islam off of him, to think that the fight's not going to hit the ground at some point against Charles, in terms of jiu-jitsu, in terms of not getting submitted, Gaethje just doesn't seem like he has those abilities. He doesn't look like those are the skill sets that he's acquired yet. When it goes to the ground, man, you still see Gaethje make a lot of mistakes, give up his back plenty of times, get caught in submissions. I'm not going to say easily, but he's not a black belt. We know that is basically what I'm saying. And if you want to be to Charles, if you want to be to Islam, you have to be well versed on the ground as well. And that's where I think he hits that roadblock.
Yeah, it seems like that is the roadblock, right? But he got revenge for his first rematch. Poirier, that whole narrative of like he's undefeated in rematches, they
Yeah.
play that up to the point where it kind of became the curse in a
Yeah.
way, right? Everybody's like same venue, same location, same rule set. Poirier wins. That got caught up in the narrative, and Justin Gaethje just shut all that down, right? It almost seemed like people are already writing, like drawing posters up for Poirier, Makhachev, right? And
Yeah.
even with Makhachev booked against Charles Oliveira, everybody's just overlooking.
Yeah.
Like Beneil Dariush, what 7-fight win streak? He goes in there. He's gonna face off against Charles. It's almost people thought that Beneil already had a title shot, not even facing Charles yet. But that was like the ultimate test, and he went in there, and Charles showed up. You know what I mean, and threw heavy, and we got to see the Charles that we love. You know what I mean, the one that goes in there. But yeah, going back to Gaethje and his I don't think it's his wrestling, because I think he wrestles with some of the best people in the world. You know what I
For
mean,
sure.
like in training camp, right? Kamaru Usman is one of his best training partners, right? But I think it's more of the defensive savvy of like being in positions that you're gonna be in against a guy like a Habib or Islam, and being able to get out of those positions, right?
Yeah.
That's the question. Can Gaethje do that? Has he leveled up enough to be able to get out of those positions and be in those positions for weeks, practicing those positions? You know what I mean? There has been a couple guys that really practice those positions, and you could tell in the fight, but then it just the blanket overwhelmed them. You know what I mean? I think the Poirier Habib fight, like it seemed like he played some defense, right? He prepared
Sure.
for Habib's, rear naked choke stuff, but it just overwhelmed him eventually, right? Like third round or whatever, third, fourth round.
Yeah.
Um, I'm interested to see the fight though. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna, because I think a lot of people are saying like Gaethje's on his tail end of his career. He's punch drunk, you know what I mean, or whatnot, and he can't take shots anymore.
The
Well,
first
he
part
just
of that
showed
I
it.
agree with, right? I don't think Gaethje has this long run ahead of him. I think he is on the tail end of his career, but I think he's on the tail end of his prime, right? What we hope is that guys, when they hit the end of their prime, that they also hit the end of their career. We don't like it when guys hit the end of their prime and then have this long career of losses afterwards. So I agree that he's on the tail end of his career, but I don't agree that he's punch drunk and can't take a shot. That I disagree with. And we saw it from Poirier, man. Poirier hit him a couple clean times, and he was still with it. He was still there and got the job done.
Yeah, and I think that's the next thing for Gaethje. There's no argument. Like he's gonna fight for the title. Like you said, there's that many fights left for him. The title is the fight that he wants. Maybe defend the BMF title against somebody if he wants. But I don't see many fights. If he doesn't win the title, I don't see many fights coming after that, right? Except for these BMF type of fights. But you've seen Dana, and this is only the second one they've had, since Jorge. So
Yeah.
I don't think that they're really into like putting out BMF title fights
Man,
continuously.
you know my thought. It's just we have a pay-per-view and that
Yeah.
pay-per-view doesn't have a title fight. Like that's when they're gonna say let's put up a BMF belt. There has to be a belt on the line for every pay-per-view. So that's when they'll bring the BMF back out.
Probably, right? When they need someone to save the day.
Mm.
Now with Poirier, what do you do with him though? You know what I mean? He's obviously he doesn't want to fight, like he mentioned, he doesn't want to fight up and comers. You know what I mean? He's fought, look at the list, dude. There's like he
Everybody.
needs to he's fought everybody, right? Especially
Mm.
in the top 10. Um I would love to see the Hooker rematch.
I was
I
literally
think.
thinking that. I was literally thinking that. I was like, bro, book him and Dan Hooker again. That fight is a
Yeah,
ESPN classic.
exactly, right? You could put that on a main event, like on a fight night, and people would fuck. I don't think they would put Dustin Poirier and Hooker on a fight night though.
I
Like
mean,
that
the
would be
man,
hard.
it was just it's just the nostalgia of it being in the apex. Like I want it in the apex again. The shots that you
Oh,
can hear
okay.
from those two, whew, man,
Yeah.
that first fight between the two of them, that was epic, man. That's one that you watch. You always get asked a question like if you're introducing somebody to MMA, if you're introducing a friend to UFC, what fight do you give them? That one's got to be on that list, man. That Hooker Gaethje fight has to be on that list.
Yeah, for sure. And I could see him fighting like to like the most back, that he will go, I think would be like Hooker.
Yeah,
I don't think like there's many fights left for Poirier as well. He's on the back end of his career, right? He looked great until the knockout, but I'm just saying
no,
he's
for
on the
sure.
back end of his career. They're both, I believe, 34 years old.
Yeah,
That's not young, right? You've seen the statistics of champions at 34 and older. And you know who's both 34 right now? Izzy and Volkanovski.
yeah, they kind of
They're taking risks
make
now,
everybody
right?
eat
Like,
their words. Yeah.
yeah, they're taking risks now, right? It's going to be hard for them to keep the belts. I'm serious. Like, it's just the reality. Like the stylistic matchups and age. You get to a certain age,
Yep.
you got 28, 27-year olds hungry,
Yeah.
right? They don't have what you have, right? They don't they don't cook on the Traeger grill. They cook on the what is it? The dome ones. What are the dome ones?
With the
What are
egg,
those called? Yeah, the egg shaped
the
ones. What are
big
those
green
called?
egg, the big green egg.
Every ghetto barbecue has one. Come on,
Yeah.
right?
No,
Like
for
that's the easiest one to pull out, right? The circle egg,
for the Weber.
the Weber. That's
Yeah,
right, the
yeah.
Weber,
Old
the
school
Weber.
charcoal, old
The
school
Yeah,
charcoal,
it's
baby. Throw it on
simple,
there.
simple, right?
Mhm.
You see people like stealing those because it's easy to steal. They're not that big,
Yeah.
right? You're just rolling down the street with them and stuff. Anyways, so yeah, if you cook it on a Weber, the chaps are cooking on Traegers, and what I mean,
Yeah.
it's a difference. There's levels to the shit. So
No, for
once you
sure.
get older in age, and I think those guys realize that, so they're being they're kind of being very selective of like who they fight. You know,
And
they
they're
have
trying
that
to find
pleasure.
motivation, right? Like
Yeah,
at that time, when you have those many consecutive title defenses, you start having to find motivation. You have to start finding things to get you up. I mean, look at Izzy, like, him and Dricus, like he's putting
yeah,
that on. I think part of it is like, yes, he wants to sell the fight, but I think the other part is like, I really got to get myself going for this guy because I'm such a
yeah,
big favorite. A lot of people think this guy doesn't have a chance, especially pre-Whitaker fight. I think post-Whitaker fight that kind of changed a little bit. But
mhm,
pre-Whitaker fight was like, this dude doesn't have a chance against Izzy. So Izzy's like, I gotta get myself going. I gotta find a reason to hate him. I gotta want to kill him in order to get myself training the right way. And Volk's gonna be the same way, man. If Volk stays at 145 for his next fight, like, how do you find the motivation to fight somebody who can't beat Max, somebody who can't beat, you know what I mean? This guy, that guy, like maybe Topuria is the answer, but Volk is the reason why he's wanting to fight Islam because that gets him motivated. That makes
yeah.
him want to train harder than he ever has. I don't know if Topuria does that for him. So to your point, yeah, man, for someone like Dustin, to bring it back, someone like Dustin is just what motivates him, what gets him going. I think maybe somebody in the 55 division, this is your chance. If you're a lightweight, this is your opportunity to get under the skin, get into the nerves, and get yourself a fight with Poirier. Because, like you said, he's not just going to fight the next man up, the next guy in the rankings. He wants to fight someone who he's going to get motivated for. And one thing we know about Dustin is he'll get pissed off. It's not that
Yeah.
hard to piss at Dustin Poirier off, to get him angry, to get him to want to fight you. Someone needs to take a shot at him and get him excited for his next fight. Because if not, I don't know, man. I don't know what's there for him if he doesn't want to fight the Sarukians and the Dariushs and the
Yeah.
Gamrots. Like I don't know what else is there for him if he doesn't want to fight those guys.
It's hard, man. What's going on, M? He's saying, what about Poirier Dariush now? Poirier might be interested in it now, but why would he be interested in a Dariush? Like you said, a Dariush, Sarukian. These are the guys that it's more risk than reward, right?
Yeah.
Because you're already two rungs. You just drop down like 2-3 rungs, right, on the list of title contenders. And at the end of the day, you want to be the undisputed title. That's where all the money comes from, or it comes from like BMF fights, right? And there's a short list, I think, of Poirier. Will Poirier fight for the title again? I think this kind of shut it down. Like, I don't think he's gonna be fighting for the title again. Like, it's gonna be hard to put him in another fight, to line him up for a title fight, right? It's just, unless some miraculous reason, like he steps up on short notice because someone pulled out and he's fighting Islam or something. You know what I mean? It's something miraculous that big money talks, right? And Poirier, one thing you know about him is he's rich now because of the
Yeah.
McGregor fights.
Oh yeah.
And
Don't forget the hot
now,
sauce.
yeah, the hot sauce, and he's got other shit going on.
Yes, it is,
If he
man.
walked away right now, like I would still look at him as the same fighter. He's I don't know if he's a legend, but he is. Oh man, how do you describe the people that like you don't consider legends? You know, in other sports, like there's like icons, there's legends, and then there's like a right. That's like the number one is icon. If you're an icon of the
Yeah.
sport, then you just supersede everything that's going on. Like Conor
Yeah, those
McGregor's an
guys changed the
icon.
game. They changed the game in
Yeah,
some way. Either people all wanted to be like them or they completely changed the infrastructure of what's
exactly. Right.
possible. No, for sure. Gaethje, I mean, he's a
Even Poirier,
BMF.
Gaethje,
He's a BMF, bro.
he's a BMF. He's a
Yeah.
former interim title winner, which is
Yeah.
Poirier as well, right? And then you look at the resume. I gotta say, Poirier's resume is better than Gaethje's, right? Because just Poirier's been around for so long, right? Yeah, he's been around
Yeah.
forever. And if Gaethje was around that much long, I think that he would have the same resume as.
Yeah.
They're kind of like the same fighter if you
I
look at
mean,
their
the whole
history.
fight week, we kept seeing the stat line pulled up, like
Yeah,
the amount of wins, the amount of KOs, the age, all these things, like
yeah,
the interim titles, never won the actual undisputed title. Like they are very similar. You put them both in the same category when their careers are said and done, which is just bad dudes, man. Bad dudes, guys that you are excited to tell people about whenever they're booked for a fight. You're like, yo, don't miss this. This dude's fights are always exciting. I mean, what can you ask for? Poirier said it best in his post-fight conference when he was, asked, and he's like, he didn't really feel I mean, obviously he felt bad that he got head kicked and lost, but he was reflective and was like, hey, man, my career has been awesome. Like, I'm very happy with my career, very happy what's been going on. I think there's a reason for it, man. He can really look back at his career and said, I did shit the right way. I went out there and fought the way fans would respect. I fought with dignity. I fought with pride. I never ducked anybody. I never cheated my way. I've never any of that stuff, man. So he's one of those guys where it's just like that blue collar, like this is what being a UFC fighter, he represents that in fullest form. The stuff he does with his charity, like it's hard not to like Dustin Poirier. It's weird that he doesn't have more fans, like true fans, especially beating McGregor. Like we remember what happened when Khabib beat McGregor. It just skyrocketed his popularity in the fandom. And for some reason, Dustin didn't really get that. Like he got more popularity for sure. He became a more household name. But like true fandom, I mean, I still heard Gaethje getting cheered in there. Like for some reason, people respect him, people appreciate him, but he doesn't have that like true stardom that I thought he might get after beating McGregor twice.
Well, I guess if you look at it, they're kind of, you just put him in the bracket of as like elite stars, right? Like he was like an elite star in the game, right? Like Gaethje, you could put him there too. Elite star. Is he legend? Not yet. Possibly. Can he become one? Yes.
Do you need to be a champion? Do you need to be an undisputed champion to be considered a legend? Or at least to like not meaning if you're an undisputed champion, you are a legend, but like that has to be a criteria.
Well, a legend is just too loosely thrown around, I think, nowadays. Like everybody's a legend. Jim Miller's a legend. Cowboy Cerrone is a legend, right? Like, yes, these guys are respectable and they've done things that you should respect and honor and all that. But are they a legend of the sport? I don't know. You gotta step back and like look at the definition of legend, because if you're throwing everybody in that category, you're like, oh, Horace Gracie's a legend. Would you put Horace Gracie and Donald Cerrone in the same category? Like, do they even fit together in that? Like,
man, I don't. I think you'd have to put Gracie above.
You got to put,
like
Gracie
I said, the landscape, changing the
icon.
landscape, man. That's what he did. He changed the landscape of fighting. He made people
but
want to
some
start
people
doing
put them in the
jujitsu.
same category.
Yeah. Well, they
people
speak
put them in
about
the
them. They
same.
both just say legendary guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree.
It's like, it's like there's fighters like Dan Henderson out there, right? That never won a UFC title, but he was a 2-division champ in Pride.
Yeah.
Right? Like, are we talking about UFC? Are we talking about MMA in general? Like, there's so many different factors that play into it. But
for sure,
I look at it as Poirier and Gaethje are like elite stars of the game. They were, and they are elite stars of the game right now. And if we're talking about 5 years into the future, we don't know. Gaethje might go in and just like run the table, lock him out, beat revenge Charles, you know what I mean? And then fight one more person, whoever it is, that's like the new killer on the block, maybe Paddy Pimblett, and then shut it down. I don't know.
I mean, this is definitely his last hurrah. This is definitely the last run in him. This is the last dance, the last ride.
Enjoy it.
Next 3 or 4 fights, that's it, man. We're not getting anything after that, guys. So
enjoy him while we still have him, because after I don't even think he's going to be involved in MMA. He has his little companies and stuff. But I think once he's gone, he's going to be like 350 pounds. You're not going to recognize. You can see that, right? Like he'll be Homer Simpson within a year and a half.
Yeah, like they show him on a broadcast one day, and they're like, "Oh shit, that's Justin Gaethje." For sure, I can see that. Man.
Looking like Ricky Hatton after a few years.
Yeah. Everyone's like,
what about Prince Nazim, right? Like, he disappeared for a while, he came back. Everyone's like, yo, what happened to Prince Nazim? Like, he's like 2 people, because they're so used to him being so small and like move, and then he became like twice the size, and everybody's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What the hell happened to Prince Nazim? That's Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje is going to return. They're going to be going back to Denver or something, and they invited Justin Gaethje back, and he's sitting cage side. And his twin brother, I believe he has a twin brother, right?
It has to be. His twin brother. When I saw him my exact words, we were in the spaces, and my exact words when I saw him, I was like, they are brothers AF. Like, that dude is, I was like, that's gotta be his brother. I didn't know he had a twin. I mean, I explained it if that's his twin.
They're going to be sitting cage side together, and you wouldn't even know who's Justin Gaethje and who's his brother. That's what's going to happen, right? Like, I'm just saying. That's what's going to happen to Gaethje.
A slight shot at Gaethje's brother for no reason.
He was there, right?
He's there. He just took it
And
straight for no reason.
I think just his brother is like who he is without the fighting, basically.
Yeah, I can see that for
That's
sure.
that's him, right?
But you're right. I
But
don't see Gaethje like loving the art of MMA so much that he like wants to
nah,
coach and he wants to have a gym. Like I don't. Yeah, man. I don't even think he wants to commentate. Like he's for
I
sure.
don't
Like
think.
once he's
Yeah.
done with this sport, he's done with this sport.
I can see Poirier doing that more than Gaethje, but
Commentating and stuff. I can see
yeah,
Poirier on TV selling his hot
yeah.
sauce still.
Is he good on the mic though? I don't know. I've never seen him
He's okay.
commentate or anything.
He's okay. I mean, I've seen him like in podcasts and stuff like that. Like he's decent. I mean, he's better
Yeah.
than Gaethje. I'll say
Yeah,
that
for
for sure.
sure.
So I can see him and DC having a little Louisiana show together, talking about fights on ESPN and stuff. I can see that.
It could be called like barbecues and hot sauce, right? Something I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something else guy in the Louisiana.
There you go. Well, Gaethje, we know what's next for him. He's gonna be fighting for the title. Hopefully, that's what I'm hoping for him. Great performance. Like you cannot argue against that performance. Poirier, he's up in the air with what he wants to do next. He deserves all the money if he gets, if he fights Conor again, because that's still a possibility.
100%.
If he fights Colby Covington at 170, possibility. There's probably a few fights at 170 that, tickles his fancy. You know what I mean? And 155, there's probably maybe a couple fights that he would probably take, which are big name fights. But other than that, I think he's probably going to be done with 155. I think he's going to go and kind of disappear on us. Maybe he won't do no media or nothing like that and focus on what he's doing and then come back maybe with an announcement or something. But anyways, great fight, great individuals, elite stars in this industry.
Legends.
And a great main event for a pay-per-view. Co-main event. Yes, co-main event. Alex Pereira versus Jan Blachowicz. Before we dive deep into that, make sure you guys go in the description and download the AllStar app. Make your picks for UFC fights and play against me, play against Sicko, play against J-Spec whenever he's around. And we'll get into it. Anyways, Pereira, man, he goes in there and wins a split decision over Jan Blachowicz. That's what I picked on the app. I picked decision win for Alex Pereira. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people, if they picked Alex Pereira, they picked knockout victory. Does it seem like Pereira doesn't have the power that he does at 205? Do you think dudes are just like, they get hit by it and they're like, what? That's what you got? Is that what y'all did? Y'all took the shots and like, huh?
I mean, Jan's got a chin on him. I don't remember when's the last time Jan got knocked out. I remember Glover hitting the shot. But also, you got to remember, whenever you have no fear versus a lot of fear in a very specific category, like it changes the dynamic of things, right? An example is like, do we think if you put Khabib and Conor in a strict boxing match, Khabib's going to drop Conor? No. But you put him in MMA where Conor's so worried about the takedown, Khabib hits him and drops him, and you're like, yo, he dropped Conor. Like, he actually clocked him and dropped him. It's like, well, yeah, because Conor ain't even thinking about getting punched. And that's what happens when, Pereira's sitting there and he can't really sit down on his punches. He can't overextend, because the one time he did, he got taken down super easily. Like, he's going to take some off. He's going to take a little power off because he just doesn't want to get taken down. And for Jan, the same thing, right? Jan's just not worried about a takedown at all. So his defense is solely based off of leg kicks and that left hook. I don't got to worry about this dude changing levels on me at all. So I think it changes a little bit when you have that dynamic. But I don't, man, it's just hard for me to think that Pereira can't knock dudes out cold at 205. I think he still does have that power.
Oh, I think so too. The first round, right? Jan goes out there and immediately he cleanses up, and you're like, yes, this is what you do to win. This is what you need to do to win. But then what was weird was that okay, there you go. All right, so what was weird was that he went away from that in the second round and started to strike with Alex. And then Alex just completely took all the momentum away from Jan and then basically won the fight. And dude, Pereira or Jan, he looked like he was just dusted. Like his energy was zapped. I don't know what happened to him. Like he out wrestled himself in the
Yeah.
first round, and he was just tired. It was just very odd to see from an elite former champion to go in there and get tired so fast. And Pereira, I think that factored into him winning the fight because Jan just didn't have the energy to keep him down. Because if you look at the fight with Izzy, you know what I mean? The takedowns were just, I think it was much harder to get than against Pereira. And Pereira kind of just like laid there after he
Yeah.
got the takedown, right? It's almost like he gave the fight to Pereira with his conditioning. It wasn't very good. Um, if you look at the stats, Pereira outlanded him for strikes, but then you see the huge takedown factor,
Mhm.
3-0. Now, imagine if this fight, like Jan took him down every round, at least a couple times, Jan would have won this fight easily. He didn't even have to punch him. He'd just take him down and control him, and give him a little pitter patter here and there. He would have won the fight. But that's not how the fight ended. The fight ended with Alex Pereira getting his hand raised, which was one of the oddest things, right? Because I think a lot of people expected Pereira to go in there and remove Jan's head if they stood
Yeah.
and traded. So it shows you that number one, Jan, he has a chin on him. Number two, Jan ain't afraid of nobody. Number three, Jan pooped the bed or shit the bed. Right? What happened, Sicko? Like what do you see in this one? Because I look at this fight as more of Jan lost than Alex won.
Yeah, you could look at it that way for sure, especially with how easy he got that initial takedown. I mean, he controlled him for the entire first round, but and it's crazy because going into the fight, I thought a 3-round fight would actually benefit Blachowicz more than it would benefit Pereira, just because I looked back at the 5-round fight he had with Izzy. And if you remember it, Jan didn't come out immediately and start taking Izzy down in the first round. Like he stood with Izzy for a while and then started mixing in the takedowns later on in the fight. In the 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round, he was taking Izzy down a lot more. So I thought, man, those first 2 rounds, if this was a 5-round fight, those first 2 rounds of like, I don't want to blow my load, I don't want to start grappling him early, I'm gonna have to stand and trade. I thought that would be big trouble. But I was like, since it's a 3-round fight, he can come out and immediately start shooting takedowns in the first round. And maybe it's just a location, man. I mean, we've seen fighters complain about it before, say like, this elevation, this Salt Lake City, man, it ain't no joke. I was gassed, I got tired. Maybe Blachowicz just didn't expect it. Maybe he thought like, hey, it's only 3 rounds. I can come out grapple heavy in the first and be able to do this. And then after the second round, we got that first takedown that he got stuffed. He was probably like, oh man, I'm tired. Like I can't keep doing this anymore. I got a good 1 or 2 shots left in me. I'm gonna have to stand and trade with him. And I mean, to his credit, he didn't get finished. Everyone felt like if he had to stand and trade with Pereira, he would get, like you said, he would get his head taken off. And to his credit, he didn't let that happen either. But yeah, man, I think just the location might have had something to do with it. Just not being prepared to fight there, not really knowing what that does to your gas tank. And these are just big boys. If you think that they're going to grapple the way, these are big, big dudes that don't have the ability to just chain wrestle all fight and still have the gas to keep going. Like that energy gets buzzed quickly at that weight class.
Yes, huge mistake in preparation, right, by Blachowicz, right? He doesn't make mistakes like that, but that was a major one. And
He
he
was
still,
dying, man. He was gassed hard.
yeah,
I mean, at the end of the fight, he wasn't even able to get off the stool. Like Pereira at least was walking around. He was on the stool, just like belly out, breathing heavy. I was like, yo, if this was a 5-rounder, he's going to sleep. Like he's tired.
yes, it almost makes you think that Blachowicz, his days could be over, like as
So
an elite level light heavyweight, right? Like against someone that like Pereira, right, which could be kind of a layup fight for Blachowicz stylistically looking at it.
yeah,
And if he was just not gassed, because he has the ability to take down Pereira, even with his worst probably technique, he took down Pereira, right? Imagine if he was fully ready, um, cardio on hit, and like he goes in there and wrestles for 15 minutes and just beats the shit out of Pereira. If he did that, people would have been like, "Holy shit!" Right? Like, even if it was a decision, as long as he went in there and took him down and just like arm dragged him and just did the Habib on him, right? And with the skill set that he had. But when you don't have the energy, dude, like the best thing for you to do is stand there and see if you could punch the other guy in the face,
Yeah.
right? You're not going to go to wrestling immediately, right? Because the last thing you want is for yourself to make a mistake on the ground and then be sitting like underneath the guy and the guy's in your like in mounts just raining down elbows and punches and you're like, oh, I put myself here. We see that sometimes in the UFC. We see that in high level fighting where a guy's too gassed, but he's just like, this is the best path of victory, so I'm gonna take it, and then it just backfires. Next thing you know, they're finished because they were trying to wrestle when they shouldn't have been. So I guess at least Blachowicz didn't get finished. If I'm gonna look at it positively,
A moral
but
victory.
I don't see very good things happening to Pereira, dude, moving forward. If he gets matched up with some
Yeah.
guys at this light heavyweight division, right? Because you could arguably put him in a title fight right now because he beat Blachowicz.
No, for sure. I think that's probably what's next, right? Jamal Hill is going to be out for a little while. Yuri's coming back. I think Yuri and Alex makes all the sense in the world. And to be honest with you, when I look at Alex and the rest of the division, I thought this was going to be his toughest test. Because I thought this was going to be the guy that would be not only unwilling to stand with him, but has the skill set to choose not to stand with him. If anybody at 205 was going to be able to go out there and take him down consistently, I thought it was going to be Hyon. When I look at Yuri, when I look at Jamal Hill, we don't look at those guys as grapplers. They don't really like to grapple. We've seen their ability to do so against Glover, but I don't know if those guys are going to come out and shoot. I don't know if those guys are going to come out and start implementing wrestling, especially if those are going to be 5-round fights now. Like if those are 5-round fights, man, you don't want to come out and start shooting heavy double legs and single legs and chain wrestling in the first round because you don't know if you're going to have that gas tank the rest of the way. So if this is a 5-round fight and it's Yuri or it's Jamal Hill, they're going to have to stand and trade. And I think that gives Alex a better chance than even Hyon. I thought Hyon was the toughest test stylistically for him. Jamal Hill still possesses crazy power. He tends to shock us. He tends to, do things that we didn't expect. A lot of times he gets overlooked, or maybe we feel like he may not be that great, and he just rises to the occasion. And then Yuri's just a madman, but Yuri gets hit a lot. Man, and that's the matchup that I like for Alex is Yuri at 205.
Yeah, there's a path to winning the title for Pereira.
Yeah.
I can see that, and I don't see it with Hyon right now. Right? Maybe he does another rebirth. Right? I don't know, but right now I don't see it. But I see Alex with the styles that come up, like with the Jamal Hill striker, Yuri striker, anything like that's a striker that's gonna like sway things away from the grappling. Alex, his chances of winning that fight jump up like 20, 30, 40%, right? Because it's just that's his forte. And
sure.
We could all be clouded by this performance and say, oh, Alex doesn't have the power that he did. He's just bigger. You know what I mean? And let's see him against a real grappler or somebody that's going to be able to wrestle him a little bit more. But
I just don't know if that guy exists. I just don't know if that guy exists at 205.
That's what I'm saying. And if
like
will
what
the
guy's
UFC
going to grapple him more
sacrifice
than
him?
Hyon?
Yeah, and who's going to sacrifice? Like who are they going to sacrifice? Because you're kind of sacrificing Pereira, right, by putting him against somebody like that, right?
Yeah,
Like who's in a, let's say a guy that has decent grappling, and I think would grapple against Pereira in the top 15.
Oh, who's that one?
It's hard to say, man, because a lot of the guys in the top 15 at 205 are just strikers. They might
who am I
have
thinking about? That's a crazy grappler, but he might be a heavyweight. Let me see. He might be a heavyweight. I might be thinking of somebody who like could fight at light heavyweight, but fights at heavyweight. I'm sure he's in the top 15 now. Let me find out.
I think you could put him against like Anthony.
Oh, I was
Smith.
thinking about Jaltin Almeida. Almeida fights.
Oh yeah. That
He's
would
a
be a
dude
crazy
that he
fight.
could. I always thought Almeida could fight at light heavyweight. Like if you see him, he's
Yeah.
always smaller than anybody he's fighting at heavyweight, and then he just ragdolls and manhandles them all.
I
Like
think
that would be crazy.
he is a 205er that's fighting it, but in a
Heavyweight.
good way. Yeah, like there's a lot of guys that are 205ers fighting at heavyweight. But yeah,
Yeah.
Pereira, I think that they're looking to rebook him as soon as possible. Either it's for the title or for the number one contender match. And maybe this was a number one contender match, right? Maybe the UFC saw it as like they told these guys, you win, you'll fight for the title against whoever's available. So it'd be Yuri, or I think Yuri's the one that they're looking at, right?
Yeah, he's just coming back from his injury. He's
And they want to
apparently
make that
he's
fight.
ready to go. Yeah.
Well, hopefully I run into him over here.
Oh yeah, that's true.
He's out here, so hopefully I see him and I'll talk to him and see what's up with him, and we'll get some information next week or something like that.
Yeah.
What is it? Let's see what. Oh, we got Crazy Pato says if Gamrot dominates Fiziev, does that make Gaethje's close win on Fiziev less impressive? Does it?
Nah, just because I just think if Gamrot dominates Fiziev, I feel like that happens a very different way. Like if I can imagine Gamrot dominating Fiziev, it's because he's taking him down and controlling him and maybe even submits him. Where it's like Gaethje's just a completely different fighter. That was a standing war. And I mean, let's be honest, like how many people are putting that much stock in Gaethje's win over Fiziev? A lot of people felt like Fiziev won that fight.
Exactly.
So I don't even know if Gaethje's like. I think this fight with Poirier is a more impressive win than his fight with Fiziev. Because Fiziev, I don't know if he won. Like that was such a good fight. Where this one, Poirier, like I expected Poirier to win, and he got. I'm not sure. I think Gamrot's just a completely different fighter, a different path of victory.
Yeah.
So I don't really hold any weight for one against the other.
And if Gamrot goes in there and dominates Fiziev with just wrestling, which could possibly happen, but the thing about Gamrot is, I'm not complaining about his style, but when you go in there with that style, you got to go in there and finish fights because people are not going to ride with you with that style. You could win decisions, but they're not going to ride with you. That you need to go in there and finish fights. You need to be brutal. In you have the skills to do it. You have the cardio to outpace everybody. Now you just got to do damage. Once you start doing damage, people are going to jump on the bandwagon, dude. Especially if you're winning. And I think that's what Gamrot needs to do. That's what Sarukian needs to do. If those two guys, one of them will be the outlier, right? Because their style is kind of very similar to each other, right? I think Sarukian's a little bit better on the feet, but like grappling wise, they're both probably the same, right? We've seen them fight, so we've seen how good they are. But the thing is, like, which one will become the outlier? Will Sarukian like improve his striking to the point where like now he's knocking fools out, but if they want to grapple, he can grapple with them? Or is Gamrot going to be the guy that comes out and says, okay, I'm going to start like finishing these dudes on the ground? Because I don't see Gamrot like closing the gap in the striking anytime soon. But Sarukian possibly, who knows? But we'll see. What else is crazy? They need to start putting respect on Gamrot's name. Guy has fought nothing but killers, including taking a fight with no training camps against Turner. Yes, we do have to give respect to Gamrot for all the things that he's done and what he's proven. But to get to that elite championship level, something has to change. Something has to be released from his inner circle, right? To like show us that he's gonna be the next guy. You know what I mean? He's got to finish fights. Like,
and John, don't you feel like people were ready though? Don't you feel like after the Sarukian fight, people were ready to start crowning Gamrot? Like when he fought Dariush, everyone was ready for it. They were ready to put the crown on him. And I mean, that was a bad loss, man. Like Dariush really beat him up. He dropped him, had him hurt. Like he couldn't really do anything with him on the ground. Dariush was able to scramble and get out of every bad position. And I think that fight just took a lot of win out of the sails. It made a lot of people second guess their their push for Gamrot, because everyone was on him, man. When he beat Sarukian, everyone was ready to push him as the next guy. This is the guy to beat Islam. This is the guy to challenge Islam. And then when he lost to Dariush, it was like, oh, never mind, we jumped off, which isn't fair. To Bato's point, man, it's not fair. Like, the dude is legit. He'll get another opportunity, and like John said, we got to see what improvements he made when he gets that next opportunity.
Who would you pick between Gaethje and Gamrot? I think Gamrot has called him out twice in the past. Yes, everybody wants to call out Gaethje. Who would you pick, Gaethje or Gamrot?
Right now, Gaethje. But it's tough. Like, they both have really clear paths to victory for me. The way I've seen Gamrot get hit, whether it was Dariush, whether it was Jalen Turner, like, if you get hit, man, Justin Gaethje's a guy that you don't really want to fight, because he has some serious power and he's not afraid to get hit to give one. But in terms of Gamrot, like, man, anybody who is really good on the ground is a tough matchup for Gaethje, because we know Gaethje, his initial takedown defense is good, but as soon as the fight ends up on the floor, he's going to make mistakes. He's going to give up submission attempts. But to your point, does Gamrot have that finishing ability?
That's the thing. Will he develop it? Is it coming? Because we see it sometimes with fighters. They come a little bit later, right? With their finishes, and it happens. Sometimes it happens at the most unexpected moment where everybody's like, "Oh yeah, Gamrot just by decision," and then all of a sudden he goes in there and blows someone's head off. Who knows, 100%. Right? Mm-hmm. It happens in the sport all the time. We'll see.
Who you got in that one, John? Don't leave me out here hanging by myself. Who you got in that Gaethje Gamrot fight?
I think Gamrot wins that fight by 5-round decision. I think that's what we see in that fight. Is Gamrot just going to go in there and keep it real tight and use his speed, even though Gaethje's pretty fast. But I think Gamrot his level changes, and his chain wrestling is a little bit quicker than Gaethje's. I think it would just stall him out, and it would be a fight that the UFC wouldn't want to see, to be honest.
Yeah.
They'd probably put it together, but I'm just saying if they're forced to, but it's just not a fight that is going to get, it's not a main event pay-per-view fight. Let's just say that, right? Yeah. Gaethje can't run that by himself. He can't hold it, on his own. But yeah, I'll take Gamrot in that one right now if we make picks. Let's move on to the unsung hero of UFC 291, which is the man with he always outdoes himself. He always tops off like what he did in the past and makes you forget about the 2, 3 fight, 4 fight losing streak that he was on. Completely redeems himself.
Who cares? Never happened.
It never happened. And he is like, Derrick Lewis is a cult hero, I think. Like, he's become a cult hero. Like, he's up there with like a Nate Diaz, right? He's up there with,
that's a good one.
He's up there with like a Tai Tuivasa, right? Like, they've etched their parts of history throughout the MMA world. And yeah, man, I don't know why I'm frozen, but I am.
You're frozen, man. You're frozen with your hand up. It looks like you're asking a question. John, it's on you. But no, I agree, man. Like, it's almost a brand, right? They almost create a brand without trying to create a brand. Like, the Black Beast is a brand. 209, Stockton, Diaz Army, that's a brand. Like, those kind of guys that culminate a certain. It's one of those where it's a way that the guys inside the circle of MMA, people who are deep into MMA, deep into the UFC, can go, well, this is my guy. This is my guy. The public may not know them. They never won a championship. They're not title contenders, but this is my guy. He's the one that gets me excited, and I know all of his stuff. I know he's going to say his balls are hot. I know he's going to pound on his chest and do his celebration. Like, it's a complete brand that you can get behind with Derrick Lewis. And to come out, Derrick Gamebred Lewis comes out with a flying knee, man. Who would have thought that that's how he was going to open the fight? It's crazy. Crazy guy.
Yeah. And when we were talking about it last week, we were saying, like, this is what we're going to see from Derrick Lewis. He's going to come out all crazy and shit. And he did. He came out all crazy. And De Lima had no chance. Like, I don't even think he threw like one punch. Once he got kneed in the face, he fell down and just took a bunch of punches. You know what I mean? And you don't want to take punches from Derrick Lewis in that position. Like he loves that position. That looked like a sexual position to him. You know what I mean? Like that he was just like pounding down.
I've been here before.
Yeah, he's yeah, man. He seems like he's getting more athletic. Which means I don't know. He's 38 years old at a heavyweight. I don't understand how that happens.
That frustrates the hell out of me, man. When he comes out in the best shape, 6-pack, like looks good. I'm like, where was that 7 years ago, Derrick Lewis?
Yeah, 6-pack with the belly. Like like what? How does that happen? But you're thinking like that's an athlete. Elite level athletes only can have a belly and a 6-pack at the same time. Like that's just what it is. De Lima, we said like his path to victory would be to like stay away, keep distance, and kind of just pitter patter his way to a decision. Yeah. Derrick Lewis didn't give him any chance of doing any of that. And 33 seconds. What do you do with Derrick Lewis? You just keep giving him these guys that he could beat up with flying knee bars, flying
knee
knees.
bar would be interesting.
Yeah.
Flying knee bar would be a finish.
Yeah.
I mean, don't know what to say. You got to re-sign him, right? That's what you do with Derrick Lewis first and foremost. You have to re-sign him.
There's gonna be big money for Derrick Lewis. I guarantee you.
Do you think the PFL overextends and offers another massive amount of money that like they really shouldn't? I mean, you have to remember.
Bare knuckle boxing will offer him more. I guarantee it.
Than PFL.
Yeah.
Because you got to remember, we know the number. We know the minimum number he gets for fighting Francis.
Yeah.
That's $2 million. That's the minimum. They can't. He's not contractually. He cannot fight Francis Ngannou for less than $2 million. Is he going to get $2 million for a fight in the UFC? I highly doubt it. Highly doubt it. Can he get $2 million or more from bare knuckle or something? Maybe. We know they got change to throw around. We know they like to throw some money around. But that's intriguing. That's intriguing. I can even see PFL just doing a one-off, like just come fight Francis Ngannou for one fight for $2 million. We'll go from there.
Yeah. He has options, right? A person in Derrick Lewis's spot, he has a lot of options, and he has a good management team that will reach out and see what type of money he can get outside the UFC. I think it's a trend that you see with a lot of these fighters at certain management groups where they'll fight out their contract and they'll go where they're going to give them the most money, right? And I think Derrick Lewis is going to probably end up doing that. I think he's going to end up going somewhere, and this could be the last time we see Derrick Lewis in Venom or Reebok or whatever, because Derrick Lewis wants to go box. Maybe one boxing match he's been offered on the undercard of Francis and what's his name?
Fury.
Tommy Fury, which I don't think that fight happens. I think Fury pulls out.
That's an easy payday for Fury.
It is, but there's also a risk too. You know what I mean? And that could be something that possibly could happen. But the thing is, like, Derrick Lewis has options, man. He's actually going free agent at the perfect time, especially off a win.
When people are getting money from free agency, where people actually are getting money elsewhere, you could see that. I mean, that's the great thing about Derrick Lewis, right? Back against the wall, last fight of your contract. This wasn't just he ended the losing streak. He's back on the win. He ended his contract on a win. Like, this could be a $2 to $5 million victory that he just had because of what's next. He could have losing this fight and winning this fight could have been the difference of your next payday being $4 million and $150,000. Like, that's what he just did in that fight.
Huge difference, dude. Huge difference. Yeah. And he's probably already a rich man. But the thing is, like, what's better than money? More money. That's what they say, right? So, man, Derrick Lewis, go out there and hit free agency. If this is the last time we see you in the UFC, all good, man. You've done your part.
Good
for him. I mean, he was an elite level star.
He's a legend. Everybody's a legend. Everybody's a legend, John. Everybody's a legend.
He's an elite level star, man. I'm just gonna put it out there.
For sure.
Elite level. Sure. Like, there's tiers, right? Come on, we gotta put tiers like icon, elite, legend, elite level star. You know what I mean? Like star. You know, I think we're gonna make a grade.
Yeah.
But we'll start with a star, right? And then elite level star. You know, because right now, like Paddy Pimblett's a star, right? We could put him in there, right? Like you put him in there as a star. Sean O'Malley, he's a star, right? We could put him in there as a star.
The
Like
power of
people,
the
yeah,
UK. Like Paddy
yeah. But I'm
Pimblett is a
saying,
star the way Sean O'Malley is a star, and Paddy Pimblett, like nobody thinks he could be a champion. Like no one thinks he could even
yeah, but
fight
he's a
for a
star though,
title.
right? He's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
star.
Popularity is what is the name of the game, right?
Yeah. So
Entertainment. We're in the entertainment business, man. It's not just a fight business.
you could be skilled as a, let's say you could be as skilled as, let's say, a Jim Miller, right? And the right matchups could get you the title, even with a Jim Miller, right? It's all about matchups, right, in fighting.
Yeah.
And I could say the same thing for Paddy Pimblett. The right matchups could get him
Man,
into the
what
title fight.
matchups? What right
I'm just
matchup?
I'm just saying, like that could be a possibility, right? And you never know with Paddy Pimblett. The UFC might just be like, oh, this is a waste of time. You know,
Yeah.
let's have him fight out his contract and have him go to PFL, and they could deal with the madness because
Yeah,
he's
that's the
not
thing
going to
that
be
people
a
forget, man.
top
The
50.
UFC
They
hasn't really
drop.
invested. They haven't invested anything in Paddy Pimblett. Like they're not giving him some crazy contract. They didn't give him
No.
some upfront money. He's not signed. There's no guaranteed deals in the UFC. Like they're not invested in him. At any point they feel like it's not gonna work, they hit that eject button and see you later, pal. Like they do not care.
Well,
Gotta
he's doing a
win
good job of utilizing his time in the UFC as well. Like
for sure.
he knows this is the time I need to gain my popularity because I might not be with the UFC forever, and that's just the truth, right? So here we go, man. But anyways, Derrick Lewis, you know, sayonara if he's not going to be in the UFC anymore, but we'll see him fight again. People are going to be tuning in. Bobby Green, you know what I mean? Is there a strain of cannabis named after Bobby Green? Because there's got to be.
It's gotta
Right,
be.
there's got to be. Somebody has to take advantage of that. Bobby Green, that's the name right there. You don't even have to. You don't have to like put anything, add anything to it. Just be like, oh, you got that Bobby Green.
Smoking on
You know
that
what I mean?
Bobby Green.
You know that funky. Put your head. You know, put you to sleep. That funky put you to sleep. You know what I mean? That's what Bobby Green got. Tony Ferguson looked actually not that bad against Bobby Green, but I think a lot of dudes look good against Bobby Green. They always do because he allows them to kind of stay in fights.
He's
That's what
silly.
Bobby Green's so
He's
dangerous,
silly,
right?
bro. He's silly. Yeah.
he's, he's a unique character, man. Bobby Green's not even a star. He's just like he's right there at star. Like
He's something.
but he's you know what I mean?
That's
Like
what
he's
he is.
not a
He's
star.
something. He's something.
Well,
Like
what would you call right below a star? Like somebody that's
man,
below star?
he's just an entertainer. Like there's no
He's-
other way to explain Bobby Green. He's just an entertainer, man. He's entertaining to listen to. He's entertaining to watch fight. But yeah, it's just entertaining. He's just an entertainer all around.
I love that he's embracing that he's the Tupac of MMA. Like I love that he's embracing this. It's become more apparent in the last couple of fights, right? Like he's really,
That
you
dude's
know,
something
his
else.
jewelry. His jewelry game has hit like 10 times. You know what I mean? Like he's sick with it, right? Like
Yeah.
if that's real, you know, he's in more danger than a rapper on the street, right? Like you better be careful.
I don't think it is, bro. I don't think it is, man. I don't think it's real. And it's okay. It doesn't gotta be. It doesn't have to be real.
Are you gonna go to the show with the diamond checker? Are you gonna go with the
bro.
show?
I promise you, if those videos that you see,
That's a good video to make.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen those videos, right? Where dudes walk up and they're like, "Yo, let me check your diamonds." Like, if they real, I'll give you.
That is a good TikTok video to make.
Yeah,
if
they
you
always
go up
have
to
one.
fighters, because fighters usually have
Bobby
jewelry
Green
on.
gonna run. I'm telling you, if you go up to Bobby Green with that, he out of there.
Bobby, turn your neck green. Bobby, turn your neck green. You know.
Turn your neck green, bro. Those are not real.
But man, it looks nice. It looks nice.
You're an entertainer, man. It's cool. It's all good. It doesn't got to be real.
Because I don't think I would walk around. Because I was about to buy like a fat chain. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna buy a fat chain. I would just wear it. But you become a target. Like it's just to a regular person
for sure.
that just like having a bad day, and they lost their job, and they need to feed their kids, and they see you walk around with a fat ass gold necklace, and it could be real. You know what I mean? Like, why not? Why not snatch it off the neck?
If you buy the necklace, you might as well buy the gun. Like,
Exactly.
we gotta buy both.
Yeah, I didn't think about that until my wife started telling me, like, you become a target, right? Like, you wearing fat necklaces and jewelry and stuff. Like, that's a target. Like, you don't want to become a target in the wrong place. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's kind of true. So I'll just buy
Yeah.
the fake ones, because like online they sell fake jewelry like it's
Yo, how
nothing.
mad would somebody be if they went and robbed Bobby Green and they find out it's fake?
And they did a TikTok of like how fake it was.
That shit is, they steal it, they go to a pawn shop or something, this shit is
Yeah.
worth $46.50. They gonna
They
go
did the
crazy.
vlog. They did the vlog of the pawn shop. It's like, yo, this shit is garbage. This is garbage. Like Fugazi. Like you got the Fugazi
Shout out
on.
Bobby Green, man. Shout
But
out
hey,
Bobby Green.
but he's like his image is flawless though. I love the image. Incredible finish. Like didn't expect Bobby Brown third round submission win, but he
Yep.
got it.
Head
It is
arm
almost
choke.
like it's almost like he like ran out of things to do, and he's just like, man, this is like one of the last things I'm gonna do. So let me try this, right? It almost seemed
Yeah.
like that because I know he wanted that knockout.
Yeah.
Like that's something that he wanted, right? But
For
he
sure.
just wasn't gonna get it. So everybody's like, imagine how many dudes were screaming at the TV, like, get up, because they wanted the knockout prop for Bobby Green.
Dude, don't you fucking tap. Don't you go out.
Get
Yeah.
up, get up.
I hope he
Just
loses
ripping
it, just
apart.
ground and pounds him or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't do it. But yeah, tough for Tony. Tough for Tony. I don't know.
Yeah.
Man, I didn't want to see Tony in this fight. And I'm not gonna sit here and say Tony looked bad. He didn't look bad. I mean, like Bobby Green didn't really start getting it going till the second round. Like if you notice, Bobby always talks. He talks a lot. He styles on you. He'll start showboating on you. And he didn't do that in the first round because Tony was catching him. It wasn't until the second
Yeah.
round where he started figuring it out. Then Bobby started talking shit. Then Bobby started dancing and pointing at him and all that talk after he started getting his rhythm and getting going. But for Tony, man, it's just so sad to watch. Like not just him losing, because again, it's not like this wasn't the Gaethje fight where I was just like scared for Tony's life in there. But man, there was just a point in time where we looked at Tony Ferguson and he was the boogeyman. People didn't want to fight him. People tried to avoid him. They would be remember the before and after pictures they would always post on Tony Ferguson? Like this is before they fought Tony and after they fought Tony. He would just bust people up. They'd be bleeding all over. And now if you do that, they're all untouched. Like Bobby Green comes out clean. Dariush comes out clean. Charles comes out clean. Like they don't even look like they've been in a fight with Tony. And it's
That was
like,
the opposite.
man,
Now
that's the
everybody's
opposite.
putting up Tony's face for every fight.
Exactly, man. Exactly. Michael Chandler, what he did to him, like it's just a sad road when you see somebody who was at that level. Like, don't get it wrong. Tony can still win fights at 155 for sure. There's still fights that he can win. Against which caliber guys is a complete different story. But if he wants to continue fighting, you could give him a Clay Guida and he could win that fight. That's a winnable fight for him. But from what Tony was, the way he looks at himself, this is a guy that said 5 fights in the title before yesterday. You know what I mean? Like this is a guy who in his mind, he's still the same Tony. And that's what worries me about him is he's not going to want to fight these other guys or he's not going to think of himself as, yeah, I'll just have these cool fights and then I'll be done. In his mind, he's going to keep pushing it until he can't anymore. And if I'm the UFC, man, you got to really start thinking about somebody's health and longevity and what their life looks like after fighting. I could see a situation where the UFC pulls the plug on them. And it's like, hey, if you're going to keep doing this, Chuck Liddell, if you remember, where Dana's like, I have so much love and stuff for him, I'm not going to let him do this on my watch. Like, if he's going to do it somewhere else, he hates Golden Boy, he hates, Oscar De La Hoya for putting on that fight with the Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell fight. Like, they're going to have to see Tony go and tarnish the rest of his years and hurt himself somewhere else. I doubt that the UFC is going to let Tony keep losing in the UFC at some point. And the thing is with Tony is like, this one was still competitive enough that you can give him one more. Like this one was still, Tony looked good enough that you can give him another fight. But man, it's just not the same. Like we remember Tony as a guy that would inflict so much damage on his opponent. And it just seems like those days are gone. And it's sad to see.
Yeah, those days are definitely gone. the thing is, like, he's not the elite level fighter that we're used to anymore. He's in
Yeah.
his moves that he's known for are not working anymore, right? And
Yeah.
that's the game. You know what I mean? The game passes you up, and people start to figure you out. And you know what? Tony has been coaching himself. It seemed like for the past I don't even know how many years, and that stuff doesn't help you at all.
Did you see him
He's
wrapping
always
his own
changing.
hands? You see
He's
him
always
wrapping his own
changing
hands.
his
I'm like, what are you
coaching
doing?
staff, dude. Like he's when these coaches are saying in the pre-fight in the embedded, like, oh, Tony hasn't looked this good. And how long have you been with Tony?
Yeah.
Like he always switches coaches. Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean he hasn't looked this good since whatever? It's like it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I, Tony. It all depends, man. They might do a Sam Alvey on his ass. They might do a BJ Penn. They just let him fight until his contract's over. Who knows? Has he earned that? I think he's earned that. But should he be fighting against like guys like Bobby Green? No. And the thing is, like, then if he fights against a guy that's like a prospect, then you're like, oh, it's Tony Ferguson. Then you argue against him fighting against guys that are lower in skill or should be lower in skill. So what's the argument? Is it Tony? You know, he should retire? Should he be able to continue fighting, but against lower competition, which you're not used to you're not used to? You know, like, what is the answer? There is no answer. The answer is whatever Tony wants to do that he's gonna do, right? And that's what it is.
I'd offer Tony a fight. There's a fight I would give Tony. We just talked about him. Patty Pimblett.
Yeah, that would be a good fight.
Patty
Like
needs
that.
somebody,
Yeah.
like he needs a winnable name. I don't know if there is a more winnable name than Tony, but at the same time, like going into that fight, I don't know if I wouldn't pick Tony. This might be the first time in 5 fights that I would pick Tony going into a fight if it was against Patty.
Without a doubt. It's it's interesting. I think that should be something that Patty Pimblett should be, you know, trying to go after behind the scenes, not like publicly, but behind the scenes. You should be like, yeah, I would return, and I would return against Tony Ferguson. That would be a good fight. It would boost his name. You know what I mean? Even though Tony is not who he is, but
Bro,
still,
but what
it's
if
Tony
Patty's the
Ferguson.
one dude that snaps the 6-fight losing streak and Tony
Yeah.
goes and knocks him out? Like, yo, that's it.
That could happen.
Would be the eject button that the UFC hits on Patty Pimblett. Like, bro, you get knocked out by Tony Ferguson. He hasn't won a fight in 7 tries. Like, yeah, this isn't for you.
Bobby Green, man, I don't think people pay enough respect to him. He debuted in the UFC in 2013. This has been like 10 years for him. And he started off on a 4-fight win streak. Did you know that? Crazy.
No, he was hot. There was a time where people really thought Bobby Green was next up.
He finished James Krause in the first round with the kick. In that year, 2013. It's crazy, right? He has a long list. But the thing is, he has not faced Jim Miller yet at all throughout the whole time. I think that's the fight we should make. Why do we just want Jim Miller to fight? I don't know, but it's just that's what it is. Let's put Jim Miller in there against Bobby Green. Tony Ferguson against Patty the Batty Pimblett. I don't like that idea. I like that idea actually a lot. It makes a lot of sense, right? Because you know Patty's not gonna fight Poirier. He's not gonna fight these other like top guys. So let's just put him in against a former champ in Tony Ferguson in the UK. Why not? Let's give Tony Ferguson one more chance. Next fight. I picked Kevin Holland to win this one because Michael Chiesa has not looked like an elite level fighter in his last couple of fights. He just, I don't know if it's the commentating gigs or the stuff outside the cage that's affecting him, but he just hasn't looked good. And Kevin Holland looked like an elite level fighter. Like Kevin Holland's a star right now, right? You could put him in that star category. But to get to that elite star level, he showed that in this fight, I think. What'd you think of it?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the talk going in was Kevin Holland as a defensive wrestler. Like, can he stay on his feet? Because it just doesn't look like it. And if everybody wants to take credit away from him for the Hamza fight where Hamza ragdolled him, like, who cares? He fights at 170. Hamza doesn't anymore. So, like, we could just wash that fight out. It was a fight that he was never supposed to have. He was a company man, took it for the company, kept the card alive, and took the Hamza fight and got ragdolled by a dude that I don't think is going to fight at 170 anymore. So who cares about that fight? Let's just pretend that one didn't happen. And yeah, Kevin looked amazing. He looked sharp. I knew he was going to have the advantage when it comes to striking. You know, Chiesa has never been known as a striker. Kevin Holland is known as one of the better strikers in that weight class. So I thought he was going to have the advantage there. But to be honest with you, going into the fight, I thought Chiesa was going to be able to take him down, hold him down, do enough. I didn't think he was going to be able to submit Kevin because he's a black belt in his own right. Like Kevin's jiu-jitsu is actually pretty good. It's just defensive wrestling is where Kevin Holland's always struggled. But at 185, you know, all the guys that would take him down and hold him down, like that's Derek Brunson, Vettori, guys at 185. At 170, it becomes a little bit different for him. And yeah, man, he looked sharp. He looked great. The takedowns were good. And I don't want to talk negatively about Chiesa's performance because I want to talk highly about Holland's, but I'd be doing a disservice. Like Chiesa looked pretty bad. His reactions were so big, overreacting to everything Holland was doing. I mean, almost ready to duck down and get into turtle every time Holland would flinch at him. It was weird to see. And I usually don't like to put any stock into what Sean Strickland says. But one thing that was interesting was a tweet that Strickland had after the fight and was like, this is why I always give Chiesa shit for not sparring. He doesn't spar. And I always tell him you need to spar if you're trying to fight. So I'm like, yo, for someone to have this long of a layoff, and if that's true, where he's not sparring during the layoff, yeah, no wonder his timing looked weird. His reactions looked weird. Like, if you're not sparring and you have that long of a layoff, man, it's not going to look good for you.
No, definitely not. Especially at that level, it's pretty crazy that he doesn't spar, right? But then, you know, there's guys that have success that don't spar at all. You know, I mean, Cerrone was on his run for a while without sparring, but he was fighting.
They're active.
Often.
That's what I'm saying. They're active. Like that's the biggest difference. I think if you're going to take a long layoff, you have to be sparring. Like Max doesn't spar, but Max is active as hell.
I think he spars again though. Like I don't think,
or at least during training camp, like once they enter.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird with sparring because some fighters, they say that they don't spar, but then you go to the gym and they're sparring. So you're just like, okay.
I think it's just like hard rounds.
Yeah,
they might mean it as like I don't do hard sparring, or some just don't spar outside of training camp. So that's what they mean by I don't spar. Where all of them are just like, yeah, sparring during training camp, of course, has to happen. But when I say I don't spar, it means outside of camp. Like Sean O'Malley, I know doesn't spar outside of training camp. He only spars when he's in a training camp.
Well, at welterweight, he hasn't lost, except for to Thompson. And I think that fight, I think he could have won that fight.
Dude, you talk about like what is somebody doing? I've never seen anybody just give up top position before because he just had some non-written agreement with the guy that he wasn't going to stay on top and he was just going to stand up and play into the hands of the other fighter. That one was. Man,
fighters in their verbal agreements, it usually means nothing, right? But then sometimes some fighters, they like, all right, let's do it that way. And to be honest, if he would have won that fight, because I thought he could have won it, then he would have had a win over Thompson, and he would have been on a 3-fight win streak against like pretty much 2 guys that were ranked and 1 guy that was ranked, right? So Chiesa, Ponzinibbio, Chiesa finished Ponzinibbio, and he lost because of an injury, right, in the Thompson fight. Kevin Holland's a terror, man. Like I think at welterweight, he was putting the pressure on him. You know, he was putting the pressure on Chiesa. Chiesa couldn't do shit. Like literally, he shut down everything.
Nothing.
And Chiesa, I think Chiesa has reached his peak probably, because if he's not like 1,000% into the fighting and just the fighting at this point in his career, it's hard to kind of stay at a certain level, right? And maintain like your skill set and improve, you know, here and there on little tweaks, because your mind is not all in the fight. It's like you got different things going on. But who knows, man? Who knows what Chiesa can do? But he's not a young buck either, man. I think Chiesa is he's 35 years old at welterweight. You know,
and his cuts are hard.
Yeah,
I'm making welterweight.
You know, and you got Bob. What is it? Kevin Holland. That is 30 years old and he's looking like he's the best version of Kevin Holland we've ever seen. They need to shoot him up the rankings real fast. I think his next fight, right now, what was his name? Who did he just beat? Chiesa was number 12, and
Could probably be top 10.
he'll be top 10 for sure. I think they should book him against like
Jeff Neal, yeah.
not Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal's already booked against what's his name? Machado. Ian Machado's Gary.
Oh yeah. I forget what the T-shirt. Yeah, you're right.
I think
Sean
he
Brady
should
have a
fight
fight?
somebody that's. I think he should have a fight against someone that's coming off a loss. Maybe they should wait until the outcome of Luque versus RDA. See who wins that one. See what we can do with that. But yeah, man, if they threw him against like even a Gilbert Burns, that'll be an interesting fight. To be honest with you.
I mean that, and also I would love if Ian Gary were to win and you do Ian Gary and Kevin Holland. That'd be a sick fight, man.
That is a great fight. Yeah, so like Kevin Holland, man, he impressed. I think he was one of the most impressive guys of the night, to be honest with you. I think he impressed by showing something different and showing like a sense of urgency against Chiesa and got him out of there real quick. I enjoy Kevin Holland. I know a lot of the stuff that he does is for the cameras, but some of the stuff is funny, right? Not everything's gonna be funny. Like comedians are not funny 100% of the time. So you got to pick and choose. It's like Sean Strickland. Some of the shit he says is funny, some of it's not. It's like comedy. You know what I mean? And most of the time these guys are just putting on an act because that's what makes headlines. That's what riles people up. And to garner attention while you're not fighting, that's what you need to do. And you see a lot of fighters perfecting that. And then when it's time for them to fight, then it's like, whoa, he built up some hype for himself, right? That's an approach you can take. Or you could take the Derrick Lewis approach. Don't have any kind of media or nothing going on until it's like fight week and then people are missing you, right? I guess you got to find your balance. But yeah, Kevin Holland knows what he's doing. And all he needs to do is just to win fights. That's it. Win fights, do your thing. Prelims, man, you had...
Please, Kevin Holland, please. Do not take anything short notice. Don't be the backup fighter for anything crazy. Like you've done that already. You've already thrown enough bones. You've already been the company man to UFC. Now is the time at 30 years old to put the best things forward for yourself, to make the best decision that benefits your career. So please, no more like short notice. All right, I guess I'll fight Shafkat on 3 days notice. Like, don't do that, please, for the love of God.
Well, I think that's important to remember, is that he needs to stop doing that short notice shit, because that's not going to help him, especially when you want to have some momentum in the UFC. There were some interesting fights on the prelims. A couple of standout performances, of course. Gabriel Bonfim extends his undefeated record with a big win against Trevin Giles. You had CJ Vergara with a unanimous decision over Vinicius Salvatore. Head kick KO for Roman Kopylov over Claudio Ribeiro. Jake Matthews with the RNC finish over Darius Flowers. That was a weird fight. Eros Medic with the spinning back fist to ground strikes against Matthews Semmelsberger. And then the armbar victory for Miranda Maverick over Zombie Girl. Which one was your standout of the prelims?
Man, there's a lot of good ones, but I would probably say Jake Matthews. Weird fight. Definitely a weird fight. Overall, the dude took it on short notice. But, God, I just love watching Jake Matthews fight. Like, I forget that he's still young. Like, he's been in the UFC for so long. He's had so many fights that you just assume that he's like mid-30s. And you find out that he's not even in his 30s yet. And you're like, yo, that's crazy. Like, this is a guy that could be starting to hit his peak, hit his prime now. Like, he looked good. He looks great. When he's striking, he's slipping and countering. Like, Jake Matthews is a fun dude to watch. And I figured he was going to piece this dude up. I picked him in the app. I think I picked him second round KO. Like, the dude's just fun to watch. When he starts getting going, he's able to let the hands go and rip shots to the body. And those like left to the body, right upstairs. Like, he's just a fun dude to watch. And I felt bad for Buddy that went in there. Like you can kind of see, there's points in the fight where you're like, oh, I don't think this dude wants to be in there anymore. But shout out to him. He came out like a bat out of hell in the first round. He knew he had one good round to try to do some damage and pull off the upset. And then once it didn't go well, he was like, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, man. Jake Matthews, yeah, it's just, will he get the matchups to take him to the next level? Because it seems like he's just been fighting prospects for his whole career, right?
Yeah.
If you look at his record, he has 18 fights in the UFC, and he's only 28, which is that's crazy right there. Yeah, so he's had his chances. He took on Sean Brady and lost in the third round, but he's beaten some names. There's some of them maybe out the door, but he's beaten some names and he's lost to some names. He'll get on streaks, like 3 fights, and then he'll lose. He fought Kevin Lee way back in the day. He beat the Leech, and but in recent outings, it's been toss-ups. But that's his fighting style, man. It's exciting. You know what I mean? But there has to be something that has to evolve or elevate, right, to become the next level, which is the star status, right? Right. I'm gonna make a categories, right?
Yeah, you got to pull one out.
Legends. What was it?
Superstar.
What was it? Yeah, star, superstar, and then there's star, right? What's underneath star? Journeyman, prospect. I don't know.
Journeyman, prospect. Meh.
Maybe I'll get. Maybe I won't even make one underneath star, right? No downgrading people. Like I want to keep people.
Want to be disrespectful?
Right? Yeah, I don't want to be disrespectful. So like Jake Matthews, he's on the verge, but he needs the right matchups, right? He needs the performances, and he can become one of those. Kopylov is the same. He's a young guy, has extreme talent, head kick knockout. Bonfim as well. Bonfim, if he can do something for that welterweight division for the Brazilians. There's a few Brazilians, but Bonfim welterweight, he seems like he's a monster, dude. Kind of reminds me of like Roman Dolezaj, but for welterweight, just a big tank of a man.
A big tank that could pull and guard, jumping guillotines. He's unique. He's a unique finisher.
He's insane. Man, it was a fun card to watch, to be honest with you. What'd you think of the zombie girl like gouging eyes out again? Like it's not like it's her first time she's been doing this.
I don't know, dude. Like that's something that I don't think sits right with a lot of people. I mean, I know a lot of people were just like really rooting for her to lose because of the issue with the eye gouging before. Like it's some shit that you can't tolerate if you're the UFC. I mean, that's a situation where the UFC might be like, yo, we're better off just letting this girl go. Like, to be honest with you. And shout out to Miranda Maverick. She needed this one bad. Like, she really needed to get this win, and she did it in an impressive fashion. But for Cachoeira, I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, how many times are you going to see her, do these crazy fouls, these crazy offenses before things really take a change or before you go ahead and cut her? It's one thing if she's undefeated and beating everybody and you're like, yo, we don't really know what to do with her. She's doing this shit, but she's also really, really good. Like if she's losing and doing these things, it ain't going to take long for the UFC just goes ahead and gets rid of her.
Yeah, those things don't sit too well with especially if you go to the PI and everybody hates you.
Yeah.
You don't want to go to your company, and everybody's looking at you with a side eye. That's like the beginnings of a separation between you and a company, right? If you're not getting along with people. But yeah, I think that, you could, in one fight, you could say, oh, she was panicking. That's what you do when you panic. You do things that are uncharacteristic. But then if you do it multiple times, it's like, oh, come on. Like what kind of rules are you playing by? And she grabbed the fence a bunch of times, I guess, right?
Yeah, and then she fake tapped. Like I don't know if people are really giving too much thought into it. Like she legit fake tapped. She gave one of these, and then the ref let it go. And then she was like, "All right, I'll tap now." Well, I'm like, "Nah, bro, that was a fake. You were hoping she would let off, and gave a little fake tap."
It's it was a weird fight, and it was the only women's fight on the card too, and it just started everything off kind of crazy. But yeah, Miranda Maverick definitely needed the win. I look at Miranda Maverick as a fighter that has underwhelmed. You know what I mean? Because it seems like she's always like in the headline somehow, right? But
Yeah,
I expected more from her, and it's just beating Priscilla Girl or Kazami Girl, whatever.
Priscilla
But
girl, I like it.
but uh, but Miranda Maverick, like the people that she's faced and lost to, it's just like those you shouldn't lose to those people. Like you should have been. She was supposed to be the Aaron Blanchfield. She was supposed to be Aaron Blanchfield,
She
basically.
fought Aaron Blanchard. That's the problem with her is like
Yeah.
I think with her was just not necessarily too much too soon, but like we didn't know the level of the girls that she faced. When she fought Aaron
Mhm.
Blanchfield, it was like we have to see which one is the legit prospect, and it was Aaron. When she fought Macy Barber, like you can see it was such a close
Same
fight.
thing.
A lot of people thought she beat Macy. A lot of people thought she got robbed against Macy. Like the one fight that she shouldn't have lost was the other one. What was the other? If you have her record up, there was one.
Yeah.
It was
Oh,
Blanchfield
Jasmine.
Macy. I mean, yeah. I mean, even her, right? She was talking about like her retina, her detached retina. Like she wasn't.
Mm.
She was just like fucking in safety mode the whole fight. But that was the one. That was the one where I'm like, that's the one I expect you to beat. Because Aaron Blanchfield, like I can't take credit away from you. She's one fight away from a title shot. A lot of people think Aaron Blanchfield will become a champion. A lot of people feel like Macy Barber has the potential to become a champion at her age, like later on down her career. So for me, like for Miranda Maverick, this was the one. Like if you struggled in this fight, even if she won, but she was in a dog fight and she barely pulled out a decision victory, I would have been like, yeah, I'm out on Miranda Maverick. But the fact that she dominated, she needed to dominate, she did. I still think there's a case for her to make a run. It's just unfortunate. She unfortunately got two girls who we can see fight for a title pretty soon, and like that's who she lost to.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. She's still kind of young though. She's 26. She
Yeah,
already has 8 fights in the UFC. They're gonna keep her around. She's gonna be around for a while. So don't
for sure.
feel like fans if you think, oh, Brandon Maverick's not gonna let. No, she's gonna be around for a while. She's 26, and she looked like she's getting better, but I don't know where she would. I don't know where she would take her game to the next level to where she becomes like a major threat in that division. I just don't see it right now. And maybe it won't come out until a few fights from now. I have no idea. But right now, she's not a top 15 level fighter, to be honest with you. Is she ranked?
No, I don't believe she was. But I mean, also we've seen girls surprise us before in the past, right? Like we noticed the same thing with somebody like Erin Blanchfield, where it was, oh, she's great in terms of grappling. If she gets you to the ground, like, yeah, she could beat a Molly McCann. She could, submit Molly. But what happens when she fights a Jessica Andrade or somebody like that? And then she comes out and it's like, holy shit, we did not know Erin Blanchfield was this aggressive and this good on the feet. Like, we did not expect that at all. Like, that's the performance she would have to give us. It's one of those where she starts hitting girls where you're like, oh shit, I didn't know she had this. We knew she was a great wrestler. We knew she has a good ground game. We didn't know she was going to come out. Macy Barber, the same thing. Everyone's like, Macy's boring. We don't really like her. Then all of a sudden she gets a couple of fights in her belt where she's like really going toe to toe, trading strikes, landing big shots, gets a stoppage, and now everyone's like, oh yeah, Macy Barber is actually really good. We are excited. So the female division's kind of weird, man. It kind of works that way. The other one I could think of is what's her name? Brazilian submission,
So
Mackenzie Dern.
okay.
Because there's another one where it's like, yeah, if she gets you on the ground, but like she can't stand and trade with anybody. And then all of a sudden, her last fight, you're like, yo, where the fuck did this come from? Mackenzie, like, when did you start moving forward, throwing bombs at people? Like, where was that this whole time? Like, she could have that next. Again, she's 26. A lot of these women at the top of the division are in their 30s. They're going to start filtering out, and you need the fresh crop. She's one of the fresh crop. I think she's going to win a title or something. I don't know, but she's going to be around for a while.
The thing that I look at is, when Mackenzie was, on her rise, right? She win, she lose, but she was always on the rise, right? She was always fighting the next best thing for
Yeah.
her to like move back up, right? Which is it says something about her as a fighter, right? To go after it so hard. Um, and with Mackenzie, she kind of made these big changes as well, like notable changes where she's working with Jason Perillo and kind of having her fag camp based out of Ruka, and then she has selected coaches that come in,
Her
and
body should very
yeah,
different, toned.
exactly right, and especially the striking with Jason Perillo. And I think we're just waiting for that to happen. With Miranda, we don't know, like we don't know in
That's fair.
detail like what she's working on. You know what I mean? Like, because Mackenzie's been so open about like, yeah, I'm working on my striking and my wrestling, so I get it better. So I'm like elevating to a certain level against these like high level girls. Miranda Maverick, I don't know like where she would elevate, right? Like she's good, it seems like in everywhere. It's just bad decision making in fights though. Like fight IQ wise, some of these fights she's made some big mistakes and cost her the fight. And it could be due to injury. I have no idea, but she's made a lot of in-fight mistakes that you could rewind and watch again and again and again and kind of see like why she hasn't beaten some of these girls.
Yeah.
But the thing is, with Mackenzie, we saw the striking, her working on it, and you know that she had a little bit of power because she's shown it in previous fights. And then like technique, she has to polish that up, right? And she showed that like an improvement in the last one.
Yeah.
Miranda Maverick, I don't know if I could say the same thing. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to like crush Miranda Maverick, but I'm just saying like, you know, beating Zombie Girl, I think 80% of the roster can do that.
Doesn't move the needle for you. No, that's fair.
That it doesn't.
That's fair.
It doesn't. And it's short notice, that's fine. You know, when she's injured, that's fine. So hopefully her next fight, she has a full camp, she has no injuries, and she could go in there and become her full self, right? If she does, she could beat a lot of these girls. But the thing is, can she do that? And can she show a different layer in her skill set? We don't know. But we will see. We will definitely see. Yeah, it was an incredible event. You know, I really enjoyed watching this event. And it was over, and I was just like, "Oh shit, it's over!" Like it was like, it in a good way, you know. It's like, "Oh shit, it's over." We got some good fights. I think the reason why I felt that way is because the co-main event between Pereira and Blachowicz was kind of like the break fight, you know, like it was just like a little bit slower, calmer.
Yeah.
Because before that, we had Derrick Lewis taking his pants off. And then, you know, and before that, you know, the arm triangle, before that, the darts choke, you know, it was just like all these personalities and like styles clashing. And then you get to the Pereira and just like kind of slowed it down. And you get to Gaethje and Poirier, and you're just like, oh shit, this is going to be a car crash. And then it ends all of a sudden, and you're like, all right. So
What
it's
a
all
night.
good. Yeah, it was a great night. Salt Lake City always gets good events. If I was a city, I would be jealous, right? Like if you're a UFC city, and they're not putting on shows with like this caliber, it's like, why?
Yeah.
But money talks, baby. Money talks.
And
I
show
guarantee
out.
you.
If you're one of these other cities, show out, man. Salt Lake showed out. The Miranda Maverick fight, people were in the chairs, they were in their seats chanting USA, USA for the Miranda Maverick fight. That's the first fight on the card, and you're hearing chants, you're hearing the crowd go crazy, you're hearing a pop. Like if you're a city that doesn't get a whole lot of UFC events and you want good events, be like Salt Lake City, man, and show out when it comes to your town. Like they were there early, dude, early. Good for them.
For sure. That's great for them. And next week, what do we got next week? Let me see next week's card. We have UFC Fight Night. Fight Night Sanhagen versus Font.
Mm-hmm.
This is a pretty good card, to be honest with you. You got Sanhagen, Font, main event. Jessica Andrade versus Tatiana Suarez in the co-main event. What? That's a great fight.
A few good ones.
Jacoby versus what is it? Nzukwi. That's actually going to be a tripped out fight right there. There's some tall dudes right there. Tanner Boser versus Alexa Kammer. Tanner Boser, they're giving him his last fight. Well, It could be. Billy Q versus Damon Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Ranio Barcelos versus Kyler Phillips.
Kyler Murphy.
Jeremiah Wells is back with Carlton Harris. Jake Hadley versus Cody Durden. That should be a good fight.
Yep.
Some solid fights, man. The week after that, you go back to the Apex, and you got Vicente Luque versus RDA and Cub Swanson on that card as well. And then you got your boy coming up, O'Malley versus Sterling 292, August 19th.
Let's go, baby. Oh, one thing for the next card that is coming up, man. A couple pullouts. Did you have any more information on what happened with the Nurmagomedovs? Because they both pulled out. Like they were both on the card and they both ended up pulling out. Like at
Could it
first I
could
thought
it
maybe it was an injury, but then I was like, it's weird for both of them to pull out of the same
could it be
fight.
visa issues?
That's what I was thinking because I didn't
Yeah.
hear anything. You know what I mean? Usually when you don't hear anything, there's something like outside of their control.
Well, you never know because they're known to pull out.
Yeah, that's what I'm
One thing
saying.
about these guys, they never take short notice fights. So whenever they say, "Oh, I'll take a short notice fight," you could just take it with a grain of salt because that never happens. And then they pull out because they really need to pull out. Like they're not going to be. They know, like they track themselves. They're it's a science to them. A lot of these camps
Yeah.
are science, right? Based. So they're like, "Oh shit, you're not going to make it. This injury is affecting you too much. Pull out of the fight."
Weight issues. A lot of it's like
Weight
this
issues.
is going to be a tough weight cut. Let's just go ahead and pull out. But yeah, I just thought it was weird because at first I was like, all right, maybe a weight issue, maybe an injury when I heard Umar was pulling out. But then when I saw what is it, Saeed or whatever his name is, when I saw him pull out too, I was like, that's weird. Why would they both pull out of the fight? Like, would they
Yeah,
both get hurt? Like,
together. When they
yeah,
were
like
training each other.
they both just double KO'd each other. Like they gotta pull out.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't
That'd
know.
be a
That
video.
was odd to
That's a
me.
video I want to see. Well, yeah, we'll get back on the horse. These interviews, more interviews coming this week. I got a bunch for next week's card. Who did I interview for next week's card? I interviewed Dustin Jacoby, Alexa Kammer, Billy Q, Damon Jackson, and Ode Osborne. So I interviewed
Shout out
a
Ode.
little few.
Shout out Ode. Ode's been in the spaces before. Kyler Phillips has been in the spaces before, so I'm always rocking with them, man. When they've stopped by, so it's up to us. So
There
shout
you
out
go.
those guys for sure. And Kyler, you know me, man. I'm rocking with that whole crew. The Sugar Sean, the Kyler Phillips, the Marcus McGee, that whole squad, man. I rep them.
All right.
That's my squad.
All right. Well, yeah, man, that's it. So next week we'll be back on Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. What is it? 5 p.m.
Yeah,
Pacific and 7 p.m. Central.
Yes, sir.
There you go. I got all the time zones covered. You know what I mean? Like I don't even know why I have to remember that stuff because I have to like schedule things with people that are a lot of them are based in the U.S. So I kind of understand.
My favorite is when you're like, let's do 6 Eastern, and they're like, what's that my time? You're like, I don't know, man, figure it out.
Exactly, right? It's just like what Eastern time is.
Go from there.
Yeah. So everybody, before the next show, make sure you guys download the AllStar app. It's in descriptions. Make your picks for UFC events. Join the community. Pick against Sicko. Pick against me and JSpec and a bunch of other people that are on the app. I think we have like closing in on 5,000 users on the app. So keep killing it, guys, and we'll be back with the show next week. Be safe out there.